Hi. Oh, wait, they're doing one more step. We use StreamYard, so this is all new for us.
It's actually said that we're live on Facebook, so I think you are live.
Oh, we're live. Okay. My
Hello,
apologies.
ladies. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes, we truly appreciate you being here. Tonight, we're just going to be having a conversation about housing and what's going on in the housing market in Nevada, how people can protect themselves. And we have some great people that we serve joining us today. We have Markeisha. We work with her. She's gone through some things and she'll be sharing her story. And we also have Tashima, and she will also be sharing her story. Along with them, we have Bailey Bortoli, is the statewide advocacy outreach and policy director representing Legal Aid, the Center of Southern Nevada Washoe Legal Services, volunteer attorneys at Rural Nevada and Southern Nevada Senior Law Project. In this role, she works on the state policy and advocates for low income and vulnerable Nevadans. We also have with us today Jaboa Lake, pronouns she, her, is a researcher and community organizer from California, Maine, and Oregon, now based in Washington, D.C. Jaboa is currently a senior anti-poverty policy analyst in the Center for American Progress and is completing her PhD in applied social and community psychology. Jaboa is a child of the foster care system, formerly homeless, and a renter who demands safe and secure housing for all. Thank you, ladies, for being here.
You're welcome.
Well, you're welcome.
So I'm gonna offer the space for, I'm gonna start with Markeisha and then Tashima, and I want to ask these ladies to share their story. So Markeisha, if you don't mind sharing your story with us this afternoon.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Markeisha once again. Um, so where I want to start from, I want to start with, the eviction process. Me and my landlord, we had an agreement, for us to keep in contact with each other, to let each other know what was going on about the rental situation. And so one day, she texted me and told me that she was going to give me a 7-day notice. And I was like, okay, well, I'm calling my job because I was going to get help with the union, the culinary union. And so when the lady called me back from Yuling, she told me to, bring in my information and everything. And I texted my landlord and I was letting her know that I needed verification, saying how much I owe and things like that. Now, I had also got help from Nevada Partners a couple of months back. They paid that rent up, so it wasn't that much that I owed. And so we actually, when I called the culinary union, the lady, like I say, she called me back to let me know that I needed to send in my information so I can be able to, get the help. So when I text my landlord, she was like, okay, but it was like the text was kind of weird. It was like she already had something up her sleeve, but I didn't think nothing of it. So the next day, that's when I got like the 24-hour eviction stamped on my door. And Wednesday, I sent in all my information to Yuling, the culinary union. And Thursday was the day of the eviction. And so I got a knock at the door with the sheriff department. They were saying they was putting me and my kids out at that moment. So at that moment, I was like shocked because I didn't really know, what I was going to do next or anything like that. So what I did was I called Brenda. And I was on the phone talking to her, but I actually called the landlord or whatever. And she had like a little attitude, she was like being snobby. And I was like, I don't understand, like, what are me and my kids supposed to do now, And so she was like, well, I've been told you that I needed the rent and da 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 da. So I was like, okay. So I instantly just went into prayer, right while the sheriff was in the living room and things like that. And so I was talking to Brenda. She was on the phone with me. She kind of, helped me out, kept me cool and things like that. So we ended up leaving. And so I was sitting in my car and like my phone rang. Everybody was calling me. My phone had rung and it was from the lady Maggie from Yuling, and she was calling me and she told me that she had the money for the rent. Now this is the same day that I got evicted. So she said they had the money for the rent and everything. And I was like, unfortunately, my landlord put me out, and well, she just said, well, now you just have to find somewhere to go for you and your family, and they was gonna, pay the rent for wherever I stay at. So I'm just blessed to be able to have my kids and my mother somewhere safe and, and warm and things like that. But most of all, I do want to encourage each and every one to just hold on to your faith and trust in the Lord and know that He will make a way. This is not our pandemic. This Like, we didn't put ourselves in this situation. So I just want everybody to know that your time will come. Do not panic. Just give God the glory in the midst of all of this. Now, even with the jobs, I'm not working. I'm still using my faith to get by. So, and that's what I encourage everybody to do, is to use your faith and hold on to His strength, because He is the ultimate source of everything. So I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful for the help that I'm receiving. I'm thankful for having, a roof over me and my kids' head. I'm just thankful at this point. But what I do want to say is some things got to take place, because it's so many kids and parents out here, they stressing out and they worrying, and we need help. Like, state of Nevada, what is y'all doing? We got these casinos and stuff. Oh my God, we got these casinos and things out here. But what about the people? What about the people's lives? What about these babies that's out here that's going to be in the cold? Like, these landlords is evicting these parents, and they got their kids. What are the people going to do about that situation where his parents really, really stressing and falling into depression and trying to commit suicide? What are the people, the people in the state of Nevada, the government, what are they doing to prevent all of this?
And that's one of the reasons why we're here. One of the things I do want to point out for Bailey specifically is she did her CDC paperwork. She did turn her paperwork into her landlord. Is there recourse for Markeisha right now, and even though she's been evicted?
Well, unfortunately, the CDC guidance that came down from the federal government just wasn't great, and that's what you had to work with at the time, and there were loopholes, and it sounds like your landlord was able to work and exploit those loopholes to find a way to have you removed. It's really unfortunate the way that Nevada's eviction laws are written. It's so hard to go back. Once that lockout has occurred, in almost every case, the only path forward is forward. And so I think what happened, Markeisha, if I'm not misunderstanding, is that a lot of people in your situation have believed that because this CDC protection exists and because you gave that to your landlord, that was enough. Mm-hmm. And there's just a real lack of communication from the government saying, you still have to respond to that eviction notice. Just because you gave that notice, you're not actually protected if the landlord's going to pursue the eviction anyways. Okay. Fortunately, Governor Sisolak did enter a new eviction moratorium yesterday that is better for Nevada law. It's broader. It would have protected Markeisha. So for people going forward, there is a better system now, but it does still require you to fill out that notice and give it to your landlord. The intent is that efforts will stop at that point because it's written in a better way than the CDC guidance was. But again, if you do get that notice from your landlord anyways, you do have to respond, because if you don't, under Nevada law, you can just be evicted, and you find out, like Markeisha did, when somebody's knocking on your door telling you that you have 24 hours to leave.
Bailey, can I butt in and ask a question?
Yeah.
So I heard you say a couple of times you have to respond to the eviction, but I'm thinking that the concern that I'm having with some of the people that I've been talking to in the community, there has been no eviction. They're just saying things like, Markeisha, they're coming and there's notices on the door, whether it's 24 or 7-day notice. They're not being given the full 30-day process. They're not getting any forewarnings. It's like, okay, well, you were behind. This is like the second month, and there's no money coming in. You don't have any plan on the money, and then they stick the notices on the door. And a lot of the people are just bailing because they don't want their kids to be thrown out. Like, it's a traumatic thing they're trying to avoid. Like, people are running because this is what they're being antagonized with. So I don't think that in some cases, I don't think that they're not complying. I don't think that the eviction has been applied. The landlords are proceeding with the steps without even notifying the tenants. And I know that's illegal, but this is like real life happening. Like,
So the
people
question,
are getting the notices on their door. So how do you go about it if you haven't gotten the notice and they could proceed?
yeah, so the question is, if you get a notice on your door, Bailey, what are the steps?
Yeah, so that when I say respond, I don't mean to the landlord. It's if you get that notice on your door, be it a 7-day, a 10-day, a 30-day, you get a notice on your door with a X number of days. What I mean by respond is that you need to file an answer with the court. And you can do that electronically now. We had to fight for that, but you can now do that without having to go down to the courtroom. And your legal aid providers can help you do that. So you can get assistance and instructions, and we have them on our websites for the legal aid providers as well. But that the way I think of it is that time frame on that notice, if it's a 7-day, if it's a 30-day, that's the number of days you have to file your answer with the courts. And filing that answer gives you the opportunity to defend yourself from an eviction. Without filing it, you lose your opportunity to defend yourself from the eviction. And that's when you get that you get the sheriff at your door, the constable at your door telling you that it's time to go because you didn't file with the court within that number of days. I think that's absolutely wrong. It's a legal system with no due process, and I don't know any other function of law in any area in any state where essentially the respondent has to sue themselves, right? Because the landlord hasn't filed in court yet. Why would I go file in court? But you do have to go file that answer in court just for the opportunity to defend yourself from an eviction, which is insane, but something that we really need to work on a community education aspect of making sure that people know that.
Thank you for your answer. Tashima, I'm going to offer you the opportunity to share your story. And Jaboa, a lot of her story has to do with federal housing. And I'm hoping that you can provide some answers to that. Tashima?
Hello, everyone. My name is Tashima. Okay, well, I reside in Lansman Garden. I was formerly up on public assistance. Last year in 2019, I think was it the month of October, I was due for my recertification, but I didn't know about it because I wasn't able to get inside my mailbox. So a month later, once I was able to get inside my mailbox, I had a notice stating that it was time for my recertification. As soon as I got the letter, I went down to Nevada Housing Authority. At the time, my case manager name was Kanetta Johnson. I told her that I was a little late recertifying due to me being locked out of my mailbox. I asked her, can I recertify? She told me no, to file an appeal. So a couple days later, I called her and I asked to speak to her. I let her know that since I've been residing in Lansman Garden, I've been here for 6 years. She's always been my case manager. I explained to her that I'd never missed a recertification. I let her know everything that was going on. She was so rude and nasty to me, told me I was crying my eyes out because she was like telling me that she was gonna have my managers put me out because I was no longer up on Section 8. I asked to speak to her manager. She didn't want to give me her manager. I asked to speak to people numerous times for somebody that was over her. You guys excuse me because I'm a little nervous right now. She was so rude to me. I was on the phone crying to her. She asked me whenever I'm finished crying, can I please let her know so she can go on about her business? This was last year. For a whole year, I've been trying to see if I can go over somebody higher than her. to my bill, I still have not been able to speak to anybody. I've been leaving calls for her supervisor, which I do believe is Anita Keys. She has not reached out to me. So I wanted to know, what can I do to get back into the program?
And the reason why I wanted to bring her on and highlight this is because Tashima is still living in that housing complex. She's just not on the voucher program. And she has had to apply for CHAPS. Her unemployment also has not come. And now she still needs rental assistance. And so she is in this area where we don't know what to do.
Yes, and can I please chime in? And due to that, since my
Yes.
manager, I'm very thankful that they let me reside on their property. But since this pandemic, I lost my job. So right now I'm not formally working. I applied for my unemployment back in June. I still have not received it. And my manager, since she knows that I'm not working, she's been threatening me, to put me out because I'm no longer up on housing. At this moment, I have nowhere to go. I don't have any family. So if me and my kids were able to get evicted, we wouldn't have nowhere to go. Like right now, I done lost faith. I'm very stressed out. I'm depressed. Because at the moment, I cannot lose my housing. So I want to know if you guys know anybody higher than so I can save my apartment.
Thank you for sharing that, Tashima. And Bailey can probably answer a few more of these questions. I'm not the right person to give any type of legal advice, but I can tell you what's going on at the federal level that can add to some protections, and hopefully what we can look forward to coming up that may be in your favor. One thing that I do want to really mention is, and this is something that gets not a lot of attention, and it's a really important protection for renters right now, is that one thing that happened in the CARES Act that passed last spring, even though there was a whole bunch of funding that created new voucher programs, that created rental assistant programs that have been really great, and unfortunately may be ending at the end of this month if there isn't additional aid. One thing that they did in that federal lawmaking process was they made it so that if your landlord participates in a voucher program, even if you aren't in that voucher program, so even if you're not on Section 8, if your landlord participates in that program, so if any of the other tenants use it, or if your landlord has a mortgage that is federally backed, then you have this certain type of protection where your landlord has to give you a 30-day filing notice, giving you 30 days before they even file for an eviction, so that you have that extra time. So it's not where they can, post something on your door and you only have 24 hours or 7 days. Under the CARES Act, and this is something that does not end at all. So if your landlord is participating in that program, even if you're not on it, then you are protected under this piece of the legislation, which pretty much means that your landlord has to tell you 30 days before they even think about filing for an eviction, which gives you time. And even if they choose to file an eviction against you, you still have that 30-day time, which is, critical and essential to so many things.
Can I please chime in? Because I know the last eviction notice that I had, they didn't give me 30 days. They gave me a 7-day notice, not 30 days. It was a 7-day notice. Yeah, and it was stating that if I didn't have my rent money due, then I had the 7 days to vacate the premises.
And that's what I was trying to share with Bailey. I haven't heard of anybody getting 30-day notices. Anything more than 7 days I haven't heard of it. Like they're getting 24-hour and 7-day notices.
I want to jump in here. We just received a message from Senator Rosen's office, and they said that if you are having any issues with HUD, IRS, Social Security, etc., please visit her website and fill out a message online, and she will address that. So I'm going to make sure that this is in our comments. Senator Rosen's office has chimed in and said, make sure that we are contacting them. So Tashima will make sure that, when tomorrow morning we make a comment on, fill out a form for you. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Bailey.
Yeah, Tashima, I'm sorry for what you're going through. I would add to what's been said that Governor Sisolak's protections that came out yesterday sound like you qualify for those. If you've lost any source of income that's preventing you from being current on your rent and you would have nowhere else to go if you're evicted, that protection lasts until March 31st. So what you need to do is fill out the CDC declaration or the declaration on the governor's website now, saying to your landlord, this is me, I can't pay because of the pandemic and I would be homeless if I was evicted, and give that declaration to your landlord. And that should prevent any threats of evictions through March 31st. And if they proceed anyways, I would advise you to contact a legal aid provider in Las Vegas. That's Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada or Nevada Legal Services, to see if they can help you navigate that. Yeah.
Can I please chime in? Okay, so with that, because I know that my landlord was telling me, well, that once if I fill out the CDC form, whatever my back rent, I would still be responsible for my back rent, which is understandable. But with this back rent, it's adding up to like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, which is making it even more difficult.
Yeah. So
So
it doesn't forgive rent, but it sounds like you were able to navigate the CHAPS program once. You can go back. That wasn't a one-time shot. So I would suggest that you reach back out to the CHAPS program and see if they can help you again.
okay.
Say
Because
something.
I know I was going through Hope Link of Nevada, which I think they helped me with my rent for the month of June, July, and August, and then I went back for October. But my case manager that I had there, I let her know that that I was still unemployed. So she asked me, she's like, "Well, we've been helping you for the last several months. What do you do?" I'm like, "Ma'am, at this moment, right now, I do want to work. It's not the fact that I'm being lazy, not trying to find work right now. It's hard because the positions are limited." So I didn't know if they were still trying to help me, but I ran out of options.
And Tashima, you and I can we'll work on that tomorrow as it relates to filling out CHAPS again. I want to highlight one more question because Bailey, I believe that this is an important question. And then Jaboa, her and I had a conversation about something, and I want to make sure that we highlight that as well. So we have someone that is asking, what if you are month to month?
The governor's eviction protections apply to you as well. And that was a bit of a point of contention with the CDC protection, depending on which judge and which court you landed in front of, there was a different answer. If the CDC protection protected somebody who is on a month to month, assuming that you're on a month to month because your lease has expired, the governor's eviction moratorium is very clear that it does apply to expired leases. And so whether you pay rent weekly or monthly or your lease is active or expired, it prevents you from all types of evictions if you fit the criteria that, again, you would be homeless if you had nowhere else to go. And the reason you can't pay your rent is pandemic related. So these new protections that came out yesterday, I believe, are intended to patch all of the holes and the loopholes that were in the CDC protections that people have fallen through those cracks in the last few months. So going forward, we should be in a better place. If I could just address the timeline of things that I know is really confusing. There's a lot of different types of evictions, and a non-payment of rent eviction, that's that 7-day notice. We call it a 7-day pay or quit, and you get that notice. You can get it the day after you're late on rent, the very first day. So when the landlord is going through that non-payment of rent route to eviction, you have 7 days to respond, and respond again means file that answer with the court within that timeline. If you don't respond, the landlord can have the eviction just summarily granted, which results in the constable putting a notice on your door saying you have 24 hours to get out. And so that's the 24-hour notice. The 24-hour notice means that your eviction has already been granted. At that point, prior to lockout, you can still file a motion to stay, even though the eviction's been granted, if you didn't understand how we got to this point, right? So I would still advise you to seek help as soon as you realize what's going on. It's just after that lockout has occurred that it becomes really difficult to help. The 30-day notice is a no-cause eviction. And so the reason we saw an uptick in 30-day notices was because the CDC protection in the Las Vegas Justice Court was really only being applied to say, well, you can't use the non-payment of rent route, that 7-day route, but they were allowing the loophole of the 30-day route. So landlords were trying their luck over here, but the governor's new eviction protections that are far superior should stop all routes. So you shouldn't get 7 days, you shouldn't get 30 days. If you qualify for this program and you give your landlord the declaration, it should prevent those notices from going out. But if you do get one, you need to defend yourself from it by filing that answer. I hope that wasn't just a bunch of lawyer speak.
No, Bailey, actually, that was pretty plain. And I just want to, before you go, and Bailey is a mother and we just appreciate her sacrifice for this time. Please tell your children we appreciate that. But just really quick, if you could, and Jaboy, if you could stay on, I still have the questions for you. If you could really quick, just explain what are the qualifiers again for people to fall in the governor's new moratorium, please.
Yeah, so there's 3. You have to make less than $99,000 a year as a single individual. The easy test for that is anyone who got a stimulus check falls into this economic category. The second one is that the reason you're behind on rent and struggling is pandemic related, be it job reduction, job loss, you have to stay home because your children aren't physically in school, whatever the case may be. And the third one is that you truly have nowhere else to go that wouldn't be crowded housing, whether it's a shelter, whether it's staying with your aunt and your uncle and your mom and your dad and everybody in one place that would not be COVID friendly to pack all of those people into. So you have nowhere else to go. So those are the 3 qualifiers. There were 5 for the CDC protection. So the governor has made it easier to qualify. There's less to argue about, less to prove. There's a few exceptions for landlords. If they can prove that they're being foreclosed upon, they can move forward with the eviction anyway. Or if they believe they have evidence that you don't qualify. So there may be situations where you're going to need to defend yourself in court, which is why it's really important to pay attention to that notice. But all of the legal aid lawyers are prepared to take on that fight, and we want to help you if you reach out to us.
Thank you very much, Bailey. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service. And you know what? I know other people don't know this, but thank you for your passion.
Well, thank you. Please reach out anytime. And that goes for anyone who needs help. That's why we're here. We want to help you with
All right.
figure out how we navigate our way through this. So thank you all for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jaboy, one of the things that you and I had discussed earlier this week is what we can look forward to, or what our ask is as we're going into some new COVID relief. Can you kind of explain that to the audience and to Tashima and Markeisha and Jada that are on the line?
Definitely. And I'll explain it as simply as I can, just because it is complicated for everybody right now. It is a hot mess what's going on in Congress. But there's, unfortunately, what we do know is that a lot of the protections that people were getting through the CARES Act have been expired or are expiring. And the CDC moratorium protection is expiring on the 31st. But right now, this very day, lawmakers here in Washington, D.C. are working towards a new package, and I think it's, 6 months too late for a new package, but any package at any time is a good one to help people out, so we're really hoping for this. And I'll say that, it's a really inadequate package. It doesn't even touch on what's needed right now, but it's something, and we just need something. Right. So a couple of the things that I'll highlight that's in that we know of, we don't know a lot because there's not official kind of language around it. We just kind of have some bullet points of what might be on there. When it comes to, unfortunately, when it comes to homelessness relief, there's no actual money in it for homelessness relief, which is absolutely ridiculous, which means that, you know, the states and the cities are going to be responsible for any type of boosting programs and services, even if they don't have that money to do so. But there is some money for rental housing. They include $25 billion for rental assistance, and that sounds like a lot of money, but it's estimated that we need actually about 100 billion, so it's only a quarter of what we've been asking for. And even by the end of this year, and you know, Tashima, you can relate, by the end of this year, it's estimated that there's going to be about $70 billion in back rent paid. And what's ridiculous is that, you know, people are using credit cards to pay their rent, people are using their savings, people are crowding up any money that they can find right now, because even with the moratoriums on evictions and these protections, people don't want to be behind on rent. It's going to be thousands of dollars that so many people owe once these moratoriums are lifted. And if you still don't have a job, like, how do you expect to be getting that money back? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So what we're hoping that actually happens, and we won't know if this is actually official for another maybe week or so, but what we're hoping will happen at the start of 2021 is that we do get this, you know, funds, these $25 billion, which means that the states can set up rental assistance programs again, and they can help support the ones that they have going on right now. And with these rental assistance programs, they did clean up a couple of things, and then again, Tashima, that might be helpful for you. So one thing that is really good that we're hoping happens is that they're allowed to use rental assistance programs to pay back rent and forward rent. So I think it's up to, you know, a little over a year worth, but you'll be able to pay a portion of your back rent and your rent going forward. So we're really hoping that that does happen, you know, with this new package. And that would be a huge lift off of so many people's shoulders. You know, any rental assistance is good, but that being able to pay that back rent with this money would be a lifesaver, really. Some other things that we are looking to hopefully happen is that they're trying to prioritize people who need it the most. So with these new dollars that we hope to have, they're going to make it so that you have to have the most need for rental assistance. So they're going to prioritize people who have lost their jobs and have lower incomes. They're going to prioritize people who have high rents and have, you know, lower incomes. They're going to prioritize people who are on public assistance programs, all of that. And that's a good thing too, because that means that the people who need it the very most are going to be hopefully getting it first. A few other things to mention is that in this legislation, it doesn't apply quite as much in Nevada since your governor just announced the extension of your own moratoria. They are hoping to have a federal moratorium on evictions, but it's only into the end of January. It's not to the end of March, which it should be. And the thought behind that was because they were hoping that with the Biden presidency, he would come in on January 20th, and he himself as the president would sign a moratorium on eviction federally. But, you know, we don't know if that's going to happen on day one. There's no promise it's going to happen. We're going to pressure him to make sure it does. But even with this new package, it's one of those things that's like having a promise to the end of January is really not doing a lot for people. You know, an extra 30 days is good, but it's still a huge worry. And as we all know, like, being housing insecure is such a stressful place to be in life. You know, I've been there many times in my life, and it's difficult. And just having that ease of mind in knowing that you can stay in your house for a few more months is such a huge relief. So we're really pushing for more kind of ease of mind and not stringing renters along month to month saying, we don't know if next month if we're going to protect you or not, because it's just not right. It's not moral and it's not good. So we're hoping that there is a federal extension of a moratorium, and there's a lot of groups that are really advocating for that right now. But you know, kind of the big bullet points that we're hoping to happen, and I keep saying this because there's no promise until it's signed. We're really hoping that we get those $25 billion in rental assistance for states. We really hope that they include it so that you can pay your back rent. And we really hope that they really adhere to prioritizing the people that need it the most.
I appreciate you sharing that. Even though we don't know what's going to happen, there's always some relief and hope, right? Because not knowing, which I'm sure we all know, not knowing is the scariest thing ever, right? But if there is some hope, at least it gives us that relief to move forward and actually have some kind of sound mind. Jaboy, I just really appreciate you coming on and spending this time with us and listening to our stories and prioritizing us. That means so much. And, I know that this won't be the last time that you and I are face forward fighting for the people. But I just wanted you to know that we appreciate you here at Make It Work. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I appreciate being here, and I just appreciate being able to sit here and listen to everybody's stories and respond to them in any way that's helpful.
And
Thank you
Tashima,
for joining us.
Yes, you're welcome.
Tashima and Markeisha, I appreciate you ladies sharing your stories. It takes a lot of guts to come out here and just be transparent for people, to help people. And I want you to know we're just here to serve you. I wake up every morning and I ain't got nothing to do but serve y'all. You know what I'm saying? That's it. I look forward to that. So but I want to let you know that, I appreciate you. And tomorrow we fight another day. We get the information that we were given. We'll take that information and we'll move forward and get you some answers.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank
Tashima,
you,
don't
ladies.
forget, call me at 9.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
Jada,
ladies.
and Jada, thank you for being on the call as well.
You're welcome.
To the audience out there, we hope that we answered your questions. We hope that you received some new information. We hope that we gave you some action steps to actually go home tonight and put an action plan and move forward. We hope that we provided you some relief. And for the most part, I hope that you know that Make It Work is here to serve you. And if you didn't have any place else that would get your questions answered, we don't always have the answers, but we ain't afraid to go find them. You can message us for any questions. You message us at info@makeitworknevada.org. That's INFO @makeitworknevada.org. And I just want to say this last thing. It's so important that you open your mouth and say that you need help. Please do not suffer in silence. Please. I mean, I'm almost in tears because when we make our calls, that's the one thing that scares me the most, is that I'm not making enough calls to reach enough people to make sure that they have the information. Please don't suffer in silence. If you don't want people to know, you can DM us. If you don't want to send me an email, DM us at Make It Work. We are always responding. Let us help you, please. Let us help you. All right.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for your time, you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, ladies. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.